Hello, this is my project on Thomas Hardy. Background. Thomas Hardy is a well-known English novelist and poet of the late 19th century who was greatly influenced by Romanticism, especially an awe for nature. Hardy started as a novelist, publishing books that were greatly loved by the public until the publications of Tess of the Dubervilles and Jude the Obscure, which showed depictions of the English working class and received very hostile reviews that made him shift over to poetry and short stories and plays that allowed him to experiment with stanza forms, meter, and informal diction. Time period. Hardy lived during Victorian England and saw the rise of the First Industrial Revolution, a time marked by intense progress and social change. The Victorian era of the 19th century was an era of disease where scarlet fever and smallpox ran rampant, and poverty prevailed. The Industrial Revolution saw a rise in industry and pollution, with people losing their faith in religion and separating themselves from nature through modernity. Philosophy. Hardy was raised Christian and was a devout reader of the Bible and the Common Book of Prayer by Thomas Cranmer in his early life, until he lost his faith mainly under the influence of Darwin's The Origin of Species, which undermined the concept of man's divine creation, equating man to an animal, not as a unique being, which became the primary Victorian frame of mind. With this loss of faith, Hardy turned to pessimism, which then shifted when he began to call himself a meliorist. Meliorism is the belief that humanity has a positive impact on progress, social advancement, and the world. Hardy believed in the human spirit and passion having a good effect on man's surroundings, nature, and the progress of civilization, which correlated to his longing for romanticism. The Darkling Thrush, published December 29th of 1900, originally titled The Century's End. This poem of Hardy's describes a miserable world which the speaker uses to explain his despondency towards life and the future. However, a bird, the thrush, comes into the scene, singing a bright, hopeful song that causes the speaker to wonder whether the bird understands something that he does not. Now for the poem. I leant upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre gray, and winter's dregs make desolate the weakening eye of day. The tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, and all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires. The land's sharp features seemed to be the century's corpse outlent, his crypt the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. The ancient pulse of germ and birth was shrunken hard and dry, and every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. At once a voice rose among the bleak twigs overhead, in a full-hearted even song of joy unlimited. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in blast-beruffled plume, had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around, that I could think there trembled through his happy good night air some blessed hope whereof he knew and I was unaware. Structure. The poem is a ballad containing 8-line stanzas with alternating lines of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter that follows the rhyme scheme of AB, AB, CD, CD. The thumping rhythm of the meter gives the poem energy, contrasting with the poem's tone of despair, creating emotional tension. This tension allows for the speaker's feelings of hopelessness in a desolate world to become more impactful. Some lines, like line 9, that says, "The land's sharp features seem to be," break away from the stressed, unstressed rhythm of the meter, instead having 3 consecutive stresses that make the lines heavier, allowing for intensity. Tactic devices. In the first and second stanzas, there is a lot of imagery used, as seen in lines 2 and 3 that say, "When frost was spectre gray, and winter's dregs make desolate." The imagery is used to illustrate the speaker's view of the world as a hopeless place. Through the use of the descriptive words spectre gray and desolate, the speaker describes his world as very foreboding, which plays into his feelings of a miserable life. In lines 5 and 6, the speaker uses a simile to compare the sky to a broken lyre, which symbolizes Romanticism, especially the type of thoughts, culture, and music that happened during the Romantic Age, that has declined and continues to decline as society moves forward. The speaker is saying goodbye to the 19th century that held the Romantic Age with its spirit of transcendence and beauty, and is looking into the future that seems spectre-gray and desolate. He believes the upcoming 20th century will be filled with sorrow that is without the timeless sense of energy that the Romantic Age brought about. Things that were once meaningful, true, and beautiful have been lost. The shift at the start of the third stanza, where the poem's tone changes and Hardy's meliorism presents itself. In the midst of the speaker's sorrow, a bird flies in, singing a grand song of hope, shifting the poem away from melancholy. Throughout the third and fourth stanzas, the speaker uses his diction to describe his surprise as he is at a loss for words over the bird's exclamation of joy. The bird is described as aged, frail, gaunt, and small, yet it can still sing a song filled with joy, contrasting the speaker's lack of hope, making the speaker question if the bird understands something he cannot grasp, that perhaps he should feel hopeful for the future as well. The bird can be seen as a resurrection of nature. Other poets of the 19th century include Jared Manley Hopkins and A.E. Housman. Hopkins differed from Hardy because he was a deeply religious man who put his religious values into his writing. Even so, he was a big fan of Hardy, leading to Hardy influencing his writing, especially in his sonnet Duns Scotus's Oxford. Poems of A.E. Housman are very similar to Hardy's, as they center around themes of melancholy, but they differ in that A.E. Housman takes on a pleasant tone, unlike Hardy's tone of despair. Waldo Emerson is another poet of the 19th century. However, unlike the previous poets, he lived in America. This poem shown here, called The Snowstorm by Emerson, parallels The Darkling Thrush by Hardy. In the poem, the speaker exclaims over the greatness of nature, much like the speaker in The Darkling Thrush. For the speaker in this poem has a hopeful and happy tone, as he marvels over nature's relationship with man and his love of life. During the time when The Snowstorm was written, America had recently gained independence from England and was beginning to form itself into a cohesive nation. With the help of Emerson, who had the title of Father of American Literature, America changed its view on its cultural and artistic possibilities, which led to a push for separation from transatlantic literacy traditions. This brought about America's intellectual independence as individualism and a demand for separation from Europe flourished.